and I mean, we've been there, those like really tired new moms, and you're a little bit touched out if you're choosing to breastfeed, or regardless, I mean, you have another human that's attached to you pretty much all day long. So it's important though that you do still make time to, receive intimacy from your partner, and give that attention and intimacy. We love having the when can you have sex again conversation with our clients, because we know that the intimacy piece, it can vary from person to person. And I know some people who actually have this surge of that oxytocin, like those love hormones, and they're actually feeling like they'd really like to have sex in that 6-week window, which is normally recommended that you don't have penetrative sex during that time. So if you do have that urge in the 6-week window, I mean, there's lots of other things you can do. See it as a really positive thing, and like, that's great if that was your experience. And, we do find that the majority don't necessarily feel like they want to have sex, or they don't even want to have a lot of that, that physical contact. So, I mean, in those times, I think there's ways that you can have, intimacy without having sex. So you and your partner, honestly, just making the time to like hug or hold hands or like kiss each other at some point, like goodbye, hello, good morning. I randomly love you, like whatever those things are. Because honestly, you can realize like 4, 5, 6 days have gone by and you literally have not touched your partner. They walk in the door and you hand them a baby if they work out of the home, and you just need a break, or you need to like hop in the shower, or you haven't even had time to go to the bathroom, or whatever the case may be. And then, you talk about what the baby did, and they want to catch up and see the baby. And then it's like suddenly this whole world has this infant, and like that's the foundation of it, which, can be quite sad when you realize you haven't really checked in with your partner and they haven't checked in with you. So with some of the little tips that we suggest is like put pictures up around the house of when you guys were traveling together or doing something you really love together. I know it's really effective in our house. It's really hard to stay mad at my wife when there's like really fun pictures of us traveling. And so that can help.
What can parents expect if they're pregnant right now? What's it going to really look like for them when they bring home that baby, or if they have that baby at home?
When someone brings a baby home for the first time from the hospital, or if they had the baby at home, what can be expected is this learning curve of having this new person that depends on you for everything. And so feeding a baby, that is something that's happening every 1 to 2 to 3 hours, depending on the baby and depending on the baby's needs. Especially in those early days, babies tend to cluster feed, which means they're feeding almost all the time to try to bring milk in if you've chosen to breastfeed. So, oftentimes you feed for 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little bit more, and you've only got a 20, 30-minute break before baby's looking for it again, and that spaces out as they get older. But in the very early times, you don't have much time in between feeds to take care of yourself or do anything around the house, which a lot of people are surprised with. So being able to jump in a shower can be very challenging. Getting yourself a snack can be challenging. Oftentimes you're trapped under her baby. You can't get up. They're sleeping, and gosh, you want them to sleep so bad. So you're sitting with them on top of you, and you're hungry and you're thirsty. So this goes on, like I said, in a 24-hour period. Babies they don't know what is night and day just yet. So you're up a lot at night. You're up a lot during the day. There's very little time for sleep and self-care. And then you're adding onto that sleep deprivation hormone drops too. So there's lots of stuff going on internally that makes you feel different, like a different person. You don't feel quite the same. You might be emotional. Depending on how the birth went, you might be having thoughts of what that was like and flashbacks of what that was like. So there's a whole lot going on emotionally for a new mom, as well as physically. So really making sure that you have that support system around you to help you with that, so that there's not other things on top of learning to feed and learning to bathe, is going to be extremely helpful and extremely needed at this time. It's very common for us to get phone calls around the second and third day that are like, I don't know why I did this. What was I thinking? This was a big mistake. I can't do this. because so much is happening on that second and third day with baby cluster feeding and trying to bring milk in, and the hormone drops and all of that happening all at once. And, people not realizing that babies hate to be put down and left alone. And it's just so demanding at first. And that is very much reality. And also it does get easier.
Yeah.
It gets way easier, but when you're in it, it's so hard.
I know we've been talking a lot about breastfeeding if someone's choosing to go that route, and it can sound like it's really, really hard. And why would one choose to do this? I mean, there's lots and lots of benefits of breastfeeding. Natasha and I could talk for hours about the benefits of breastfeeding. And the reality is at first you're both learning. So like learning anything, it can be a little bit more challenging. We do promise it gets easier. I'm a breastfeeding educator, and I was like, really excited to breastfeed. And the, real talk, I hated it. And I remember feeling a lot of shame around how much I didn't like it, especially the first couple weeks. I just kept reminding myself like of all the awesome, things I was giving my daughter and choosing to breastfeed. And this is not an anti-formula or, everyone needs to choose to do what feels right for them and their family and their babies and their values.
And if you are choosing to breastfeed and this is something you're really passionate about and something you really want to do, then when you are creating that postpartum plan prenatally, there's a couple of things that you need to make sure that you have on your written down list. So for your resources, you want to have lactation consultants written on there, the Leshy League meetings, any community services that are around there, any moms groups who are really passionate about breastfeeding.
Education seems to be something that would save so much stress about this, and knowing not fear based, like just you wait, that kind of thing, but more the fact of just this knowledge that that you won't have much time, that you'll be cluster feeding, you could be cluster feeding, that there's a lot that you can't do when you're feeding a baby and getting the milk, but if you are partnered, if they're actually at work, you've got to go out and get the milk while you're feeding them. And it can actually be a really exhausting time.
What a lot of cultures have and what we don't really have in Australia at all, there are some little pockets of it, what's known as the baby moon, or a 30 or 40 day stay-in period where the person who's given birth and the newborn baby, their job is just to be cocooned at home or in their garden or, very close circuit to their home. And they don't have any other responsibilities except learning all those new tasks of parenting.
And also they're given a lot of herbs as well. They're given herbs and soups and broths, and they don't have to, they're not allowed. The mother-in-laws come in, or the village, or the women, they come in, they step in and go, no, you're not getting in the kitchen. And they find it frustrating, but they are lying down. You see photos of women in India reclining for the 40 days, recovering, nourishing, building.
I know when we are creating postpartum plans prenatally with our clients that it is really important to make sure that partners feel like they have a role and they have a place in that plan. So typically the situations we have is that the non-birth parent is working out of the home. And we know that's not the case for every family, but I know that's what we see the most of. So I think it's really important actually that the partner has like full understanding of the reality of the parent who is at home with the child. And I know that we sometimes can make the plan the other way, like getting the understanding of the out of the home parent. But I think that understanding has to go both ways, that the reality is that the person does have to commute and they are out of the home and they are away from the baby. And that can feel really stressful, just as the person at home is missing out on those social interactions, doesn't have their work. And for some people, they really liked giving up, like they like their work and they do have to give it up temporarily or permanently, depending on what the family's plan is. They aren't talking to anybody because babies don't usually interact very much. And that can be really isolating. So they both have this like grass is always greener experience. Like we hear that can be a point of contention for our clients and their partners if they have them. So having that like real talk conversation, that there's pros and cons to both being out of the home and being at home with the baby. And then having tasks that the partner feels like they, have that role in parenting when they may feel like they're missing out on so much because they might be, leaving the house in the morning and coming back later at night. And so they've missed like all that experience with the baby or the babies. So having them have a role, so they might do bath time. They get home from work and their job is to have that experience with their little one, which can be really great. And I know sometimes partners want to be part of the feeding process. And so for families choosing to exclusively breastfeed, that can be a bit tricky. So, there are lots of other tasks that don't involve feeding if the family is chest or breastfeeding. But they can be, doing bath time or learning baby massage. That's a really great one. And they can be doing the bedtime routine normally takes a while if they are doing something like that, or co-sleeping, or putting baby on when they get home and helping make dinner, whatever the tasks are. So there's lots of things that can be really interactive.
Another thing I want to bring up as well is that oftentimes the primary parent or the parent that's home with the baby will be doing all of the baby-like things. So they'll be doing bath time, they'll be putting the baby to bed, they'll be changing the diapers, and oftentimes they can feel like they're the only people that can do it right. So sometimes we have to let go of how our partner does things, let our partners figure out ways. So for example, with a bedtime routine, I might put my baby to sleep by, holding them on my chest and rocking them, or I might feed them to sleep, something like that, where my partner might have to do it a different way. And it might be challenging at first, but they can learn how to do it. So sometimes letting go of, how you want things done so that you can get help from other people. Plus, that's going to build their confidence. So sometimes they feel like they don't have a role in the home because they can't do anything right. So making sure you're avoiding that cycle that happens all the time.
Bianca and Natasha have created a postpartum plan workbook to allow people to go through all the things we have talked about, and also parents can feel as prepared as you can be for this incredible, amazing rollercoaster ride of the baby moon time. This is a freebie download. You can go to their website at bebomia.com. That's BEBOMIA.com/postpartum plan, and their website is bebomia.com. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Pregnancy, Birth and Beyond, and special thanks to our guests Natasha and Bianca. Tune in next week for more information and inspiration. And if you like what you've heard today, you can listen to more podcasts and find us on iTunes and Sprague and social media under PBB Media of Pregnancy, Birth and Beyond.